How's everybody doing?
All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's just after 2100 on a Friday night, and that means it's time for the Brushfire Mind. This is the hangout show. So we've got our contributors and creators here with us, and my name is Christopher Lowry. We're going to open up with a little hello,
Hello.
echo, echo. Okay, everybody gets muted for a minute.
Did it go back away?
I actually have to mute you all individually. It's kind of a pain in the ass. Um, okay, so I'm just going to start all the way the hell over. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Christopher Lowry with the Brushfire Mind. This is our hangout on a Friday night. It's just a little after 2100, and we're ready to get started. So, this week we're going to chew, and we're going to chew real hard on the ethics and morality of war and what that means to politics. So, this is my contention. Several weeks ago, I had to write a few papers on torture, the ethics, the morality of torture, and I read a few papers on the subject, and many of the positions that I read argued. Some argued, obviously, there were several of these libs that just straight argued torture is never ever ever okay. It is always 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 unethical and immoral. And they honestly, I didn't even see a whole lot of the it's not effective arguments. Often the major argument against the use of torture is that it's not effective. Oh well, people just they'll tell you anything. Torture is just the fastest way to get at a lie. Well, that's easy enough to believe if you don't know anything at all about interrogation and human nature. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that later. Um, what I really want to tag on this is the ethics and morality of war. So we talk about fair play, fair fighting. The law of land warfare is a constant topic for military personnel. We have the Geneva Conventions that restrict certain activities in combat. But here's where it all kind of breaks down. War is not some odd social construct. War is not it is not like religion. It is not like a marketplace. It is not like the free market exchange of ideas or products or property. War is the base. It is the prior state. It is the natural beginning state of mankind. We exist originally in a state of warring. Now, what has allowed us to transcend that is the development of philosophies, of ethics, of morals, and of, most importantly, commerce. The ability of men to trade with one another rather than to seek acquisition through force alone. When we go back and we look at early societies, early post-tribal societies, look at feudalism, for example. In a feudalist society, everybody's functionally a slave except for the landowner. That's But even in that, the fact that the landowner was able to conduct commerce with other landowners, take the goods that were produced by his slave labor forces, the vassals, the peasants, um, that was a major step up above just using straight forcible acquisition. The peasants in that case, even living as slaves, were still protected from the ugly horror of constant war and constant threat. So when you get to war itself being prior to ethic, being prior to morality, is itself neither ethical or non-ethical. It is neither moral or immoral. War itself doesn't have morals and ethics. Which brings us to the political application. We look at somebody like Hillary Clinton, who clearly has just no qualms at all. On the email thing, first it was I didn't do anything wrong. Then it was I didn't know that I did anything wrong. And that's obviously a patent lie, because one does not have access to the levels of security that she breached without having been stuffed into a room and briefed on these are the rules. You must sign this piece of paper that says we told you the rules and you understand them. So at a minimum, she lied when she signed the paperwork. And Cameron and I were talking about this earlier, and I'm going to ask Cameron to pop on in just a minute and rebut me. So, I contend that the situation with Donald Trump and what has made him so very, very effective against Hillary is recognizing this. The political arena that he's in is an arena of war. It is an arena which is a priori to ethic and morality. And that is an important distinction, because we face, as liberty-loving Americans, what we face is no less than the growth of tyranny in the enemy left, in the Democrat Party. Now, I would go so far as to say that that cancer has spread into the Republican Party, and our actual vestiges of a sort of safe haven for liberty have nearly entirely escaped and evacuated all of the political process to this point. Even Gary Johnson, the presumptive libertarian, has clearly gone off the rails and been hijacked by this tyrannical cancer. But with Donald Trump, what we see is somebody who is recognizing and acknowledging that we are being faced by an enemy, Hillary Clinton, who, operating under the Alinskyite rules, where rule number 4 says that the best way to destroy America is to turn their ethics against them. Americans are, by their nature, ethical, moral people. They want to help the sick child. They want to help the poor single mother. They want to do this. They want to do that. And you can no better defeat them than by abusing that fact of them. And to do so, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that to do that is something that the 5 of us would agree is immoral and unethical. To abuse the goodness of a person to their detriment is an immoral, unethical act. And it's a constant base tactic for the liberal. For example, the theft of the word liberal. I think that's a prime cut example right there. But what Donald has done is he said, you know what? Good and decent people need to be good and decent. But warriors, when faced with warriors who are employing despicable tactics, which are specifically designed to exploit weaknesses that exist in your own defensive structure, precisely because of your ethical valor, can only be fought by recognizing the weakness of that ethical position. And that's the microphone. Can only be fought by recognizing the weakness of that ethical position and responding correctly and in kind. So I'm going to swing this at Cameron and see what he's got to rebut. And let's just see what you got. You may have to unmute yourself, Cameron. Oh, go ahead. I think we can hear you.
I don't really know what you want me to rebut. I mean, Donald Trump clearly saw a field of weak, soft candidates and just smashed everything and everybody in his way, and it's why he is appealing. It's like Cody said earlier. We made the joke about since when does Donald Trump worry about whether or not something's appropriate? And Cody was like, that's one of the things I like about him. So yeah, the fact that Donald Trump will win and then he'll go apologize to everybody later. That's clearly what his appeal is. So rebut? No. I mean, he does appeal to the sense that enough, and Donald Trump represents the guy that's going to go in and kick the doors down and make the changes. So, and he's pretty clearly displayed some immoral tactics as he kind of chewed through the Republican field, making jokes about whether or not Ben Carson was a capable doctor, or whether or not Ted Cruz was an honest Christian, and so forth. It didn't really matter. He was just trying to win. The right and wrong of it didn't matter. But you look back on it, and yeah, you want to talk about something that came before morality. So yeah, no, I don't really have a rebut. I would have to agree.
Well, that's boring. All right, I want to hear from Steve for a minute then, because Steve hates Trump.
Well, I don't hate Trump, but I think that Trump's an admirable man. I don't want him running my country. I don't know. I think the way you said what you said stayed generalized enough that, yeah, I think most of it's accurate. I think, as you put it, you go back to day one, war existed because survival. As things have gone on, we haven't had to kill other people for what they produced. We kind of found a way to pay them to do shit like that. So have wars become things based on generated ethics of a time? Yeah. War itself should not be held to that if you truly expect to win, within reason. I'm not a big fan of chemical weapons. They kind of kill indiscriminately. If the wind shifts back against your troops, you don't have a whole lot of fun with that. Nuclear wars, yeah, it could end things pretty quickly, but it gets pretty bad. So I think, yeah, in some places it's a good thing ethics are a part of war. But on the other hand, not using bullets that kill people too badly seems a really silly idea.
Yeah. Cody's heard me say more than once, it can't be too dead.
Yeah, absolutely not. That you kill it until it dies. It's that simple.
And then you kill it some more.
I think Cameron had a really, I'm not even sure the word I'm looking for. I think he hit it pretty well. Trump did kind of steamroll through everything, but the man treats Inquirer headlines as news, because evidently it's true until it's disproven. So I'm not sure how that works. But,
well, hold on. Let me tackle that for a minute, actually.
Okay.
That's actually part of my point. He's responding to the tactic of the enemy, because think about the left and what they are. Remember the Rolling Stone article? Hey, there's rape culture on this campus. Women are being raped every 30 seconds on this campus, blah, 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 blah. And then, oh, boom, not true.
Mm-hmm.
It turned out that it was absolutely, demonstrably, and provably false.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not even that somebody got it wrong, but they went out of their way to create a lie and publish it. And in so doing, defamed the college and all that. And then what was the response when it was proved false? It wasn't even, oh, my bad. It was, well, no, you don't understand. This whole rape culture thing is very real in other places. And it's so important that we need to lie about it happening to raise awareness.
Yeah, because that made total sense.
So Trump treating the Inquirer headlines like news in that way, Cody just said mainstream media isn't much better than the tabloids. He's pretty much right.
But what
a lot of it.
in the long run from that, all that does is attack Trump's credibility because he's willing to stoop to a tactic that you know he's simply done to further bullshit.
Yes. However, part of what we're getting at with this, part of what Cameron and I were talking about earlier, is that we have been put in the position where, I mean, clearly, Romney couldn't do it the right way. McCain couldn't do it the right way. Liberty has been hammered into a corner by these gross and unethical tactics, to such a point that it will take a monster to kill the monster. Remember the movie Firefly? I'm gonna bring that up. I made this comparison with Cameron when we were talking about this earlier. There's in the movie Firefly, the main bad guy is they call him the Operative. He never has a name, and he goes on this little diatribe and talks about how he's hunting down these specific people on orders from the corrupt government. Well, he doesn't believe they're a corrupt government, but he's a true believer. He's fully dedicated to his cause, and more than happy to use even the most horrifying scorched earth tactics to achieve his end. And he says it like this. He says, "Oh no, there's no place in this perfect world that I'm creating for me. I'm a monster. I don't belong there. I can never belong there. But who's going to kill all the me's?" So that I think Cameron said it best earlier. Maybe Trump is not the next Reagan. Maybe Trump is the weapon that we need to destroy things like a Clinton regime, a Clinton dynasty. Because you better believe that if Hillary gets it this time around, it won't be long before old Chelsea's working on it too.
The main thing is about Trump specifically in all of it, the supposition that he is of the lofty intent at all that particular fictional character is, I don't see it. And I honestly don't think that his actions have been anything more than the means to an end to get there. I don't think he's got anything in mind of what he's talking about to do while he's in office. Now, he can't do it unilaterally. If he could, he wouldn't be mad at Obama for the shit he's tried to do unilaterally. It's not supposed to work that way. So, once again, making all these promises, all these things, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. It's just so much posturing. He's telling a bunch of people what they want to hear in order to get elected. He's playing Obama's game. And I don't trust it. I'm not going to vote for somebody I can't trust, and I don't like the feel of Trump. I don't. And maybe he is making war on their grounds in their way and doing it well, but to me it makes him no better than them. None at all.
Can I jump in?
Yeah, sorry, Cody.
No worries. So I realize that this guy's basically taken up arms against all of his other opponents, but effectively, if he's going to cause an effect against them, he's kind of got to play their game, because if he hits them from something that's outside of the perspective that either a majority of the people understand or a majority of the candidates are willing to play within the realms of, he essentially becomes ineffective because he's not operating in the domain that he needs to cause the effect that he needs to. So ideally, would I like to see a candidate that goes, I'm not going to play bullshit games? Absolutely. But the reality of the situation, at least for the current circumstances, is if he chooses not to do that, he's eliminating himself from that process. I don't know if anybody heard that or not.
I do want you to speak up and speak into the microphone a little more. You're speaking in too low a register. I have to pick it up for the broadcaster, or I kind of fall off like this if I just talk. And you gotta watch that. But
Okay.
no, let me go back and ask you to say that again because I couldn't hear you well.
All right. Is feed coming in a little better now? Okay. So basically, the situation that Trump's in is he's got to fight within the game that is laid before him. If he chooses to take the moral high ground and say, I'm not playing by these stupid fucking rules, he takes himself out of the race because he's got to stay within the left and the right limit of the defined political system in the current state. So as much as I would like to see a candidate come out and say, I don't agree with conducting business this way, at this point in time, with the way that elections run, with the way that fundraising runs, and the way that the media is used to control the public's opinion of a candidate, to do that is political suicide, and you're sacrificing your end state or your objective by allowing your moral compass to get into the way, which is a really shitty thing that politics, which used to be just getting the people that we need to represent us, the majority, the public, and our interests, drafted, put into legislation, and passed for the benefit of us. But the man's playing within the realm that he has to. We can't really be mad at him for that.
Hi there. There was a pregnant pause. I thought I'd jump into it. It doesn't seem to, can y'all hear me? Okay. It seems to me that I've watched Trump on C-SPAN. There's a collection of testimonies that he's given before Congress across the ages. And if you go back and review what he sounded like back then with what he's decided to sound like since 2005, you're really seeing that he's modeled what the American people think, how they go about thinking about things, and he's catering to their cognitive process. He sounded more like a professor when he was talking to Congress about real estate matters in the 90s and banking issues. And all of a sudden he knows all these very large terms, and all of a sudden you realize that the man did in fact go get a master's in business from the Wharton School, and he's not any joke, and everybody goes around trying to pretend like he doesn't have enough intelligence or something like that. Well, he made up a collection of money for veterans rather than participating in one of the debates, and so now they're trying to rake him through the coals because he went out and raised what he says now is $4.5 million, but the evening of the fundraiser they said $6 million because that's what was pledged. So, they really are playing the full commie game with him. The whole dialectic maneuvering that Lenin and Mao perfected, they're fully aware of those things, and they're fully using those as much as they can. Anything that he does that's good has to be presented as if it is just some sort of egregious violation against humanity. Now, he hasn't gone to that extent when he's been talking about his opposition. I mean, he's called them things like liars, and then he's had some evidence of that. Pandering and the despicable nature of sold-out politicians is evident to most of us that are here trying to act like we got a brain in our head. So I think what he's doing is he's got an old lawyer trick going. The lawyer has to convince the jury to vote a certain way on an issue or a set of issues, and he's trying to bring all these people to a conclusion in such a manner as they're accustomed to arriving at decisions. I believe that the man has studied some neurolinguistic programming along the way. he's surfacing behaviors that have been manifested by people that he's been running against, and everything the man does is portrayed as being evil. And he's not even portraying his opposition in that manner. I think I've run out of things to say for a minute. My brain is just, the squirrels don't work.
All right, then I'm going to pick up for a minute while we're on the NLP. The thing about NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, and what it means to a Trump campaign, when you look at the way that he presents on the campaign trail, in stark contrast to what Rod was talking about with his presentations to CNN and C-SPAN and talking before Congress on real estate dealings, get old boy started talking about his business, talking about how he does what he does, and he's scary smart. He's real sharp, but put him out there talking to the general public, and let him get into. There's always the complaint, oh well, he never gets into the specifics. Okay, that's fair. He does say, I want to do X, Y, and Z, and he says it 3 or 4 times. He repeats himself constantly on purpose. He doesn't do that when he's talking in the groups like Rod was just talking about. He doesn't sit there and repeat himself over and over again, because there he's presenting a series of serious facts and statistics and information to a group of people whose job it is to take notes and be prepared to review those notes, because they know damn well they're not smart enough to process all the information he's loading out there. I'm not even saying he's necessarily smart enough to process all that information at the rate that it's being delivered. Somebody starts explaining, well, look, you examine our gross national product, which is at this large number here, and our current tax revenue is at this number here. If we change our tax, that's what Ben Carson did, and he's not on the campaign trail anymore. And it's largely because, I mean, part of it is definitely that he was soft-spoken, but Ben Carson had a bad habit of getting into the weeds on information. I love that stuff. I do. But if I really want to process it, I'm watching the YouTube replay. I'm going back and listening to it a second time. I love my details. I do. But I got to pick them up. When you spit a thesis at me and it's a shitload of statistics, I'll be able to process them once I've got them in front of me. But pop over to your average American, as it were, and not only can they not process it in real time, they don't want to. They make their decisions emotionally. Donald Trump will not be elected by statisticians and actuaries. He will be elected by Budweiser swilling rednecks and workaday blacks and a bunch of gay guys with fabulous gold trims on their houses that love the whole Trump motif, the whole Trump pimp style. And yes, so Steve, I'm going to address that absolutely. So the guy that is successful at manipulating masses with simplistic, vague comments outweighs candidates who attempt to educate the same masses about the things they should know. Sort of. The thing is, Trump is actually smarter than the opponents he dealt with. I'm gonna pull a caveat on that with Ben Carson. Carson's a sharp motherfucker. But he's not a tactician, and he's not a politician. So Trump has the brain, and part of the brain that he has is the tactical mind to recognize the enemy and use the tactics that can defeat that enemy. There are a lot of things that I would love to see us never have to do in war. I would love to never have to shoot a child on a battlefield. But when my enemy is sending children with hand grenades to kill me and my men, that decision gets a lot harder. I cannot choose in good conscience to allow that child to live at the expense of a U.S. platoon. I can tell my battle buddy not to walk into that minefield, but the Army cannot afford for me to follow him in after I've told him, hey, there's a minefield there. Stop. If he keeps walking into the minefield, I can make a radio call and get somebody up here with a mine detector, a mine sweeper to help him get back out. But the Army cannot afford for me to follow his dumb ass in there. So when you look at the neurolinguistic programming that is clearly being employed by Trump, and it's brilliant, I'm going to say everything that you need to remember 3 times. It takes 3 times every time I want you to remember something. If I say everything that I need you to remember 3 times, you will remember that thing. And now you will always remember that if I tell you something 3 times, I'm probably going to plug in 1 more just to make sure you didn't miss one. That's a very, very basic level of neurolinguistic programming. Another piece that he's pretty good at. I've got the best words. I've got so many words. I've got all these words. They're great words. They're tremendous words. Well, I just used 4 words that basically meant the same thing, which gives me my repetition and keeps that repetition fresh. That's also an effective maneuver.
It's actually one of the things he's mocked for, but it's entirely effective. And you can look at that from a military standpoint. As I issue a call out while I'm on patrol or verbal communication is authorized and I'm not moving through hand signs or beeps and squeaks on a radio, every member that hears that call come out of a PL's mouth repeats that call. Same protocols initiated in a firefight, which is a very emotionally tense situation. And that's another aspect. If you look at Trump when he's speaking, he triggers emotion. That's his initial flag. He triggers emotion by making a statement that either people find that they have within themselves that's not popular opinion outside of their group of people, or one that's just a little bit absurd. But it gets people to listen to what he's saying because they're expecting an explanation. And instead of explaining something, he puts an idea. He inserts it, and then it echoes.
Well, I think what I've been seeing is that he does the guided imagery thing with people. You know, you're going to love winning. You're going to love winning so much you're going to get sick of winning. It's going to be so good. And he's causing people to visualize what he's saying, right? He doesn't simply just say something. He describes it, and he makes pictures out of it, mental pictures, and he's getting people to create the images inside their head. And that is the essence of what he's doing. And then he gets in the little mind palace that everybody has, and he starts running around going, well, look over here. What do you suppose might Hillary do? Right? He's got the little story of the scorpion or the snake riding on the back. I mean, he's always reading the little story. But you got to remember that Hillary Clinton has killed people. He's not killed anybody. He's not caused people to die. He hasn't fomented 3 revolutions in South America, nor no telling how many in North Africa and South Asia that they've been working on. I mean, they went into Libya because it was a guns cache where they could just go grab all these weapons and start shipping them around the world. And then somebody's surprised that Benghazi was attacked by these people that were smart enough to figure out that these weapons were being exported from this place via this little city to be used against them. Of course they attacked it. You see what I'm saying? That's a legitimate place to attack at that point. But he's not doing a full-blown trance induction on people. He's not doing that. He's not trancing them out. They're not standing up zombies or something. But he is accessing the visualization and the auditory visualizations that people do. He does the little thing with the hands, and It does little characterizations and all this kind of stuff, much more than the typical American politician that we've ever seen. You know, it's more akin to what the comedian does. All right, y'all's turn.
What are you unmuting me for? I hadn't even formed a cohesive sentence in my head yet.
Well, do it.
Do it. Come on, feed me. Do we want to talk about the food where we're at?
Okay. Here we go. So while Rod was saying that, and that's all solid. I mentioned to Steve the Falala from Snow Crash. So there's this book called Snow Crash, one of my favorite science fiction novels of all time. The main character is named Hero Protagonist. You ought to appreciate that chuckle, Rod. And one of the primary overarching themes throughout the story is to do with this thought virus. And again, I know this is one that Rod and I have talked about a lot. Is the thought virus? We called it the macrophage, and we've talked many times about the different forms that it takes. Well, in Snow Crash, the reason the book is called Snow Crash, main character is a hacker, and this is a book that was written in the early '80s. It was basically written early enough that the internet was not yet a thing, and the book is about the internet. In the story, he calls it the metaverse, and his version of the internet, the metaverse, is a fully immersive. Basically, it's Facebook that's formed as 5 senses virtual reality, so you can pick up a cup of coffee and drink it and taste the coffee and put it back down. Yeah, it's like plugging into the Matrix, and that's how you conduct business on the internet. Except that when you're in there, the metaverse is not restricted to the physics of reality. So a person's avatar, their representation could be anything. And if you're going to pass files off to somebody, you'd hand them a business card, and that's the visual, physical representation within the construct of the metaverse of making a file transfer. Here's a PDF, so to speak. And so the hackers in that story world come under attack by the Snow Crash virus, and the Snow Crash is when your computer goes black, when your screen goes black, and you get the static. Steve says the book was in 1982. So, what? Rod says the book was in 1982.
No, Tron.
Oh, Tron. Tron was in 1982. That's not relevant. A Snow Crash is when the TV goes black and you've got static and it's snowy. Well, in the Snow Crash story, a snow crash would occur on a document in the metaverse, and that would transmit the thought virus that broke the hacker and made him a vegetable. Outside of the metaverse, the exact same virus was transmitted as an actual virus in the Kool-Aid. So there was that, and then there was also a linguistic passage of the virus. People could speak words at your what they called the base language, and a lot of it dealt with Mesopotamian and Sumerian mythology, and talked about Enki and the magic of words in that way. Yes, Cody, you need to read this book. It's a fantastic piece of science fiction. And it really, I mean, Steve just said it was published in 1992, and one of the tools that Hero Protagonist uses to conduct his business in this story written in 1992 is a three-dimensional globe model of the Earth that he can zoom in on and look at specific details at the street level. yeah. Google Earth. This author theorized that, predicted that back in the early 90s, when Keyhole was barely even, we were barely even aware of Keyhole, let alone having just easy access to it. I mean, yeah, Neil Stephenson kicks ass, absolutely. But my point there, I've wandered off a little bit, is we're getting into that thought virus. Well, the thought virus has been the tactic of the left. That transmission, the pervasiveness of their positions. Yes, Rod, I'll read entropy. I'll get there. Yes. Anyway, it has been the tactic of the left for so long, and it is destroying us. The way that thought virus spreads through the masses, coupled with the tendency of man to crawl up underneath a strong leader, and basically, if we were able to reduce all governments to absolute ash right now, we would only be a few weeks out from reestablishing a functional feudalist state worldwide, and it would simply be the one man strong enough and having of the leadership, the one man with the charisma and the strength to stand up and say, I'm in charge of stuff. Come on, guys, let's pull it together. Let's work together. I'm gonna take charge. I will have great ideas and tell you how to put those great ideas into practice, and we will build us a community so that we can survive and we will be strong and defend ourselves from the enemy. Feudalism is global in just a few weeks. You cannot have an actual anarchy among men because the vast majority of them are not strong enough to stand on their own and to remain truly free. One of the problems with being dedicated to the idea of liberty is that liberty is an activity. It is a thing which one must actively engage in. Last week I talked about living. I talked about the work of living. If one does not live as an active verb, if one does not make the action of living, then he dies. If one does not breathe, if one does not drink, if one does not eat, he dies. If one does not reproduce, the species dies. Living is an active verb. One does not simply persist. One cannot choose to simply sit and wait and survive, because you will not. You will die. You'll start to rot before you pass away. So what we have with Trump is a polio vaccine. How does one treat a virus? With live virus. How does one stop evil men with guns? Well, you send in more men with guns. When you have bad people with guns, you stop them with good people who have guns. Somebody got to pick up and help me out here. I can only run my mouth for. Well, actually, no. I keep doing this all night, but I'll start using the fuck word if I do.
Yeah, but don't lie and say you can't talk for hours on end, whether we want you to or not. No, I find it curious that you did use the NLP stuff in that sense, and it definitely makes sense that way. And like I said, just from the root of why I dislike Trump, that doesn't help the case simply because he's playing the game. I understand what you're saying. I don't like it. It's not how I play, therefore I have a hard time stomaching that game, right or wrong. I like the approach that I talked about in our sidebar thread about the, hey, this is what's going on, this is how this works, kind of like you laid it out there. Enough people start to see this and start to understand what's been going on, build up some cases of what's changed because of that stuff in the past, show some things about how it works, then people start to understand it and know how to resist it. Otherwise, we're just playing puppet master, and then that kind of takes the ethics out of the warfare again, doesn't it?
No, we're not playing puppet masters here. He's not doing anything close to puppet mastery with a little bit of the NLP sort of techniques that he's using. It's not like that at all. He's not making people into zombies. I said that a little while ago. He's using it in the sense. Remember, he's participated with these people that go around on touring, and they give these rah-rah siskumbah lecture series. Here's how you do things in order to become wealthy, etc. Here's how you think about it. But he's not doing trance inductions and stuff like that. He's not making the American public into some sort of Manchurian candidate. But he is trying to get them thinking about their future. And if you think you're better off today than you were 4 years ago, well, who did that first? You know, I mean, that's been done many times, right? And I would say it's fair game, and I mean the way he's using it. I would say it's fair game.
Let me hit that real quick. Here's something interesting. That are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? That's a fantastic political position to take when you're going for re-election. You know, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? Well, the truth of the matter is that basically, if you're working, if you're earning, then 4 years down the road, you probably are doing better than you were 4 years ago. You've probably seen a promotion or a raise at work. You've probably either remodeled the house or moved into a bigger house. Maybe you got that pay raise you get when the kids stop needing diapers. All of a sudden, nobody in the house is in diapers anymore. It's like, oh my God, that's like a $300 a month raise. So 4 years down the road, there is a large enough group of people that are doing better just on their own it's almost like cheating for a politician to ask the question, hey, are you doing better than you were 4 years ago? But contrast that with the situation now, and that is less the case under the current administration than it has been for quite some time.
Ogre, here's how it's working. Trump is going after this whole thing of all the jobs being exported to communist China. Right? Where did that start? Well, that was under the trade agreements, right? The NAFTA and all those different kind of treaties that Clinton got the Senate to ratify, right? And now Obama's got yet another big one, the TPP, that he's trying to get through, right? And the American people they don't believe that manufacturing is the thing that can't be conducted here in the United States. They're not buying that argument. That's, he's killing them with that. He's like, we're going to conduct an economic war to get these jobs back over here. If we have to tax stuff at the borders, we're going to do that. Well, let's talk about how much it costs to actually manufacture a little tablet or a little small cell phone thing. Well, I know that they sell them in India for $35, but then they'll come over here and sell them for who knows how much, $800 for an iPhone or something. But I've always been one that went after the unit production costs. Now, on the political compass, I'm not anywhere close to no Democrat or no Republican, nor any libertarian. I'm down there in the bottom left quadrant, right in the dead center of it, next to people like Dalai Lama. I'm not into having people harmed. I want honesty and stuff like that to prevail. So when stuff comes to the border, they have to fill out forms. You see what I'm saying? If the government wanted to have markets, they would be publishing what the unit production cost of an item is, so that people would have some comprehension how much the car costs to produce at the border. That's when they bring it here and it's coming off the ship. They've got a manifest that says, here's what we're declaring for taxes. And that's a really low number now, isn't it? Because they don't want to pay any taxes. Okay, now all these millions of jobs have been exported, probably for no reason. The American auto workers weren't getting paid that much less money than the Japanese and others as it was, right? They were already making less money than the Germans and the Japanese when they started exporting their base, right? So the reason these jobs and stuff like this are being exported is because they figured out a way to get Congress to be stupid enough to allow it. When you start, people talk about Adam Smith, and he must be the most misquoted author in history because nobody reads this stuff. All these people, they go through reading these old economists, looking for stuff that these guys said was really bad, and then they give it a new sexy name. Here's the little NLP that they've been doing on the American people. They'll take something like from the third book somewhere of Adam Smith's Wealth of Nations, and then they'll call something trickle-down economics. And up in that third book, he's talking about how you really want to have your manufacturing base close to home, as close as possible. People that have actually read the books, know what's going on. Now, this is such a small population. I have a hard time getting people that I've already gotten to read 50 books to read one more book. This was written in 1980, Entropy. This is one hell of a book. Go buy it. Read it. It's written in 1980, and it will blow your mind at the prescience this man had, Jeremy Rifkin. He wrote another book called The End of Work in 1996. Great big fat thick book. It's been updated. And the prescience of mind. He's the kind of guy that teaches at the Wharton School, right? This stuff at Wharton, what's going on there, that is not your normal little college that folks go to and study some little classes, and now we're going to get a job. Okay? I don't know exactly what their curriculum looks like, but I know that their professors are doing some mighty heavy-duty thinking, right? And, just a little exposure to somebody that's got a brain that knows how to get people to read some books goes a long way. I'll shut up now.
No, don't shut up about it. I'm looking up buying the book.
Oh, no, it's all right. I got a copy on the way already. And you mentioned End of Work. I have not read The End of Work. I've skimmed it.
Oh, well, let me just talk to you about
but I've read the shit out of his...
End of Work talks about the creation of a fucking volunteer sector in the economy. I'll work for food. I'll have a volunteeristic job. Give me a break. This guy's in 1996 telling us all the stuff that these people were already planning, and he didn't think it was a good idea at the time. I don't particularly think so. And it's not like there was some sort of necessity for this economic end run to occur, right? We were sitting there, it was the United States versus the poor Soviet Union as a counterbalance, and not having any idea how to go from the market economy that we have into the market economy that should have existed, while trying to drag the Soviets from the lack of market economy that they didn't have via the Sakhalin plan. If over 500 days, they figured they could get it done in 500 days. Why can't we get it done in 500 days? Wouldn't that be just refreshing for us to do something as cogent as stepping away from whatever this neo-feudalism crap that we're in is, and stepping back toward mercantilism or something? I discovered a new word today. It was what did I call it? Participation or something? You just can't. What was the old trap? It was 1984. No, that's not the right book. It was Animal Farm, right? And the mule was sitting here. That's like a woman's looking for a better mule, right? They'll get rid of their husband, go get another one if they can find somebody that can tote their load a little better than the last one, And I've known women that sold positive pregnancy test strips so that they could hold their boyfriend up for $750 to have an abortion that was really not an abortion. They're just heading to the beach, right? And so, so this crookedness stuff it's just pervasive. It's everywhere, and we can't get people to be honest to save their damn souls, right? And oh my God, and they're like beat the Baptist half to death because they're against sucking dicks and everything else. Come on, man. At some point, you have to grow a brain. The HIV virus is a little bitty thing, and the condom is a great big thing, and it's like throwing a pebble through a basketball hoop, you know. And the more shots you give a virus, at getting yourself, you're messed up. We've known the ways that things should go. This neocon experiment, for example, oh my God, that didn't make me happy worth a darn. I had all kinds of people telling me they're going to whoop my little ass and all this kind of stuff, and I was like, oh my God, I can't believe you think you could whoop my ass. But oh well, let's talk about it for a second here. Because they were just so enthralled, and I'm going to use that word because that's a really big word. They were brainwashed by these neocons who are nothing but Trotskyites. You can call them Alinskyites or whatever, but it's Trotsky. Those are little commies that are running around, and they're not like the commies in Russia, folks. The commies in Russia have good sense. If you don't want to work in commie land in Russia, they kick your little butt. Over here, they're like, oh, well, Patty wants to look ahead. Maybe he'll feel better tomorrow. Oh, no. Those commies over there in Russia, commie land, are different than the ones here. They're more like folks in South Georgia that talk funny. Now shut up.
Folks in South Georgia that talk funny. I ain't even that far down south in Georgia. We got this buddy, Butterbean, and I do hope that Butterbean...
You know what, Arthur? I'm tired. We're going to echo. Quit this muting shit. And everybody turn your microphones on, and let's go back to acting normal. Right? Get in it, and let's have a darn free-for-all. And we'll work on the echo chamber thing another time. But
no offense, it's nice to have everyone's thoughts concise.
Holy schmolies! Now somebody come rip my face off. I said a bunch of crap. Come get me. I stood up to every damn atheist in Mensa one night on the forum. Those people, they just bought it hook, line, and sinker. They accepted the fact there's a difference between churchianity and Christianity, and I killed them. And then they were sitting there going on and on about the Old Testament. And I'm like, really, you bunch of anti-Semitic? And I hit them with anti-Semitism. Come on, man. Hit me with some red leather words. What did Jesus say you don't like? Right? There's something in there you don't like. Let me read some of it to you. What part of this don't you understand? Oh my God, I sound like a drill sergeant. I never did y'all that way when y'all were children because I figured, damn it, everybody in the world's hit y'all with the hellfire and brimstone 700 times. It's just not going to go in that way.
It's not going to end.
And Trump is sitting here, he's trying another way to get into people's heads to talk to them so they'll listen and understand. This Hillary Rodham Clinton woman is a darn bloodthirsty psychopath, and it's got me with veins sticking out of my neck thinking about the kinds of wars and the kind of bloodshed that's going to occur if she gets free reign.
Don't you mean freer reign?
I was about to say, it's not exactly like she's being held to the letter of anything that if any other citizen went out and did, it'd probably just disappear.
Functionally, if free reign is basically, oh, hey, you can commit crimes without the fear of consequences.
Well, that's what they told Wall Street. Here's some impunity, y'all. Would y'all like that? Smear it all over yourself.
Now,
well, the Clintons have been doing it since college. I mean, shit.
With Wall Street, and one of the big issues I've been looking at lately is they've gotten to the point where they don't even have laws that they're violating anymore. It's just unethical principles that are perfectly in check. That's one of the biggest problems that's out there right now. There's not even a law argument.
No, there is a law. There is a law. Every time they do something, they end up hitting some old person, and it's at the very least, every time they do one of these little market collapse things on purpose, they're all pre-planned, et cetera, et cetera. No such thing as a recession that wasn't pre-planned. We haven't had the earth open up and swallow our economy. You know what I'm saying? It's never happened since 1870 when the thing froze over. Right, 1825, 1870. What have we had? Dust Bowl, 1930s? Oh boy, that wasn't big enough to kill the economy. But Wall Street was. With the mortgages, Hattie Mae and Leroy and them managed to outsmart the banking system. Millions of them outsmarted the banking system, really? And they're saying it's illegal? Well, guess what? They didn't repeal the laws against elder abuse. You can put every one of them in jail for elder abuse. Let them have a million counts of that. The statute doesn't even run until it's discovered. Oh, we discovered.
But if they're bought, like if the system itself is bought, which I believe it is, at the congressional level, what interest are they going to have in pursuing any violation of a law that they can pin it against them?
Well,
threaten their paycheck. And that goes back to what you were saying about the ethics of individuals and the honesty of individuals. We've lost that as a society.
I've got a buddy that's a lawyer. He made his practice off of chasing down federal folks and holding them to what their own guidelines are supposed to be.
I'm not saying there's individuals out there. I'm just saying as a majority, or for the amount of people that it's going to take. When you have to take on something the size of a bank, not that it's impossible, but you have to allocate your resources very specifically to be able to have any sort of effect. And I don't see the organization capability or the interest that would drive the organization to get to that point. I don't.
See this?
Yep.
This is $1 million camera. I bought this camera the night before for $700 and something along with a little wireless microphone. I put my homeless outfit on. I hit it in the bushes at the DeKalb County Courthouse, and I waited all day in 70 degrees.
Hang on a minute. Everybody mute your microphone. No, Rob, not you. You're supposed to tell a story.
Oh, I'm telling a story. Now look at here. It's $1 million camera. I went and bought this thing, $800, and I show up and I'm wearing my Forrest Gump outfit at the courthouse, and the bushes, and there's the camera on a tripod with the UPS that's going beep every once in a while. And I'm waiting for this guy to come and do the foreclosure on this. So he gets there, 4 in the afternoon, I've frozen, probably should go to the hospital. 17 degrees in Atlanta. Waited all day. He's supposed to be there at 10. He shows up, he reads them off. Bing, 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 all the lots and the long legal description, 5 different foreclosures, 5 times. He said, bang, sold to the bank. The camera's sitting there saying, hey, man, bang, sold to the bank, bang, sold to the bank. Right? 2010. We're trying to get this guy out of trouble. They were going to fry him alive. They were going deficiency judgment, $1.1 million. Thank you very much. Everything you got and more. Okay. Filmed it, looked at it, okay, sold to the bank. He didn't do one thing wrong. Got the deed, and the deed didn't say sold to the bank. Yeah, you see Ogre's head? The deed didn't say sold to the bank. It said sold to some corporation out of Illinois. Okay? And I'm sitting there going 5 times, and we're sitting here scrolling the videotape back and forth, and there everybody's shaking their head. How can this possibly be? Well, they ended up negotiating the $1 million down to $100,000. $1 million camera, right? People are not honest, and that's how they're getting away with crap, right? And then dumbasses like me sit here and I was raised wrong. My folks raised me to believe that folks were honest when they became adults. Wrong. Want my story? We're doing a free-for-all. Turn them microphones back on again, Ogre. It don't echo that bad.
That is a hell of a statement, Rob. That's a good story.
Busted it wide open.
That's pretty awesome.
That's hard.
Inspiring, that's for sure.
Cade, you're gonna have to unmute yourself. I can't get you unmuted for some reason.
Yeah, they said it was a mistake. If it was a mistake, they would have given up $1 million. But a mistake. Everything's a mistake. Leroy and them. In the liar. Give me a break. What are they doing, man? What they're doing is they're all getting on the same page using white papers that they shuffle back and forth to each other on the National Bureau of Economic Research, which if you're American, you can't look at. If you're from the third world developing country, you can sit there and look at them. Well, how many people are going to do that? If I want to look at one, I got to get a Fulbright scholar to go get it from there, or go Google the thing, and then maybe the professors put it somewhere else. But it's a fraudulent economy. It is as crooked an economy as could possibly be constructed that will not collapse as long as people go to work every day. There's something to steal. And when it goes down, it's going to be butt ugly.
Agreed. Okay. So I have, I'm going to take it over for a minute. It's a little after 2200. I think we've had a pretty solid show tonight. We've had a couple of viewers on with us throughout most of the show tonight, too. I can see the little clicker there. It's been great having you guys. It's been great digging into these conversations. And, of course, we'll be back next week at 2100 on Friday night. Looking forward to it. That's 9 o'clock for you guys out there in the civilian world. And do please find us at Brushfire Mind on Twitter. Follow us on Facebook, the Brushfire Mind Show. And we would love, love, love to have y'all contribute $1 or $2 to the Patreon and help fund building up some of the specials. We'll have the instructionary video on understanding the Overton window coming out shortly. And as soon as possible, as soon as we get a little bit of revenue coming out of that Patreon, we're going to start generating the Platonic Dialogues in theatrical rendition. And I think that's going to be amazing. So until next week, remember, if you build a man a fire, you'll keep him warm for the evening. But if you set a man on fire, he'll be warm for the rest of his life. Good night.